war and to maintain a facade of st. It's not a random city on the map. It's a logistical hub, a transport gateway, and a foothold that both sides understand could shift future operations. The city sits at the crossroads of key routes that Ukraine relies on for reinforcement, supply, and communication. That alone makes it vital, but even more than that, the surrounding area includes industrial assets that power parts of Ukraine's economy. Losing it would be much more than a symbolic defeat. Russia's approach here has been methodical, calculated, and undeniably ruthless. Rather than relying solely on overwhelming firepower or large-scale assaults, they've combined infiltration, pressure from multiple directions, drone dominance, and the targeted destruction of infrastructure. All these tactics intertwine to form a trap, not a quick assault, but a slow suffocation of the city's defensive systems. One of the first things analysts noticed is how Russian units began advancing toward Pokrovsk, not in a single line, but along several axes. This multi-direction strategy is designed to stretch Ukrainian defenders and force them to guess where the main blow will come from. By applying pressure along the northern, eastern, and southern approaches, Russia aims to choke off everything that makes the city functional. It's not about entering the city immediately. It's about shaping the battlefield until entering becomes almost effortless. Cutting supply lines has been central to this plan. Pokrovsk's value lies in its roads, railways, and bridges. Destroying bridges across nearby rivers, disrupting traffic routes, and creating no-go zones for Ukrainian vehicles all contribute to isolating the city. A city without supply is a city already half lost. That's the logic behind Russia's trap. Make reinforcement dangerous, make evacuation nearly impossible, and make logistics collapse bit by bit. Small infiltration teams have become a defining feature of this tactic. Instead of pushing large groups of troops into kill zones, Russia sends small squads, sometimes only a few soldiers, into neighborhoods, outskirts, and abandoned structures. These teams are often considered expendable. Their purpose is to sow confusion, gather intel, disrupt Ukrainian movements, and create the impression that Russian presence is everywhere at once. Even if these teams don't hold territory, they weaken morale and force Ukraine to spread precious manpower in unpredictable ways. Drone warfare plays an even bigger role. Russia has increasingly relied on long-range and first-person view drones capable of deadly precision. Some drones loiter in the air or remain hidden near roads, waiting for Ukrainian vehicles or troops to pass below. Others are used to scout weaknesses or blind Ukraine's own reconnaissance systems. With drones acting as a constant threat, Ukrainian units cannot move freely. Supply convoys risk being targeted at any moment. Even medical evacuation becomes a dangerous operation under the watch of drones. Weather has introduced another layer to this conflict. Dense fog, which normally hinders visibility, has ironically helped Russian advances. On days when Ukrainian drones can't operate effectively, Russian infantry can move in closer, sometimes using motorbikes or civilian vehicles to pass as non-combatants. Their tactic is simple: blend in, get close, and then strike before defenders can react. Fog becomes a shield that masks movement, and Russia uses it whenever possible. Inside Pokrovsk itself, the fighting environment has shifted from traditional front-line combat to something closer to urban shadow warfare. It's not always clear who holds what. In many parts of the city, neither side has full control. These contested gray zones shift day by day, sometimes hour by hour. Russian infiltration teams hide in abandoned buildings. Ukrainian forces conduct sweeps to root them out. It's a constant chess match where the board is made of apartment blocks, industrial yards, and rubble, strewn streets. Ukraine, for its part, is far from passive. They've reinforced the city with special forces, skilled units trained for close quarters combat and urban defense. These units help counter infiltration and provide intelligence on Russian movements. Ukraine also uses whatever drones it can, especially during clear weather, to target advancing columns or strike concentrations of Russian troops. But every defensive move comes with difficult choices. Reinforcing Pokrovsk too heavily could leave other parts of the front vulnerable. Not reinforcing it enough risks losing a key city. One of the most important factors shaping this battle is manpower. Russia has deployed enormous numbers of soldiers to the Donetsk sector. Estimates suggest that well over 100,000 troops are involved in operations related to Pokrovsk. With this level of manpower, Russia can afford to use costly infiltration tactics, where losses are expected and accepted as part of the overall plan. This relentless pressure forces Ukraine to fight not just for ground, but for endurance. The humanitarian reality is grim. Before the war, Pokrovsk had a population of tens of thousands. Most residents have fled since fighting intensified, but several thousand civilians remain. Living conditions have deteriorated sharply, services have been disrupted, supplies are scarce, and the constant threat of shelling or street-level fighting makes everyday life dangerous. Civilians caught in contested districts face the worst of it, with little access to escape routes. Urban warfare in a populated area always creates tragedy, and Pokrovsk is no exception. Economically, the stakes are enormous. Near Pokrovsk lies an important coal mine that supports Ukraine's steel production. Losing access to it, or seeing it fall into Russian hands, would have long-term consequences for Ukraine's industrial sector. Even if the mine itself remains intact, war around it can halt production, damage infrastructure, or make operation impossible. Every day of fighting represents both a military cost and an economic one. Looking at the broader map, Pokrovsk's capture would give Russia a strong platform to push deeper into Ukrainian territory. Cities like Kramatorsk and Slavyansk, both significant to Ukraine's defense, could come under increased threat. Control of Pokrovsk would allow Russia to tighten its grip on western Donetsk and potentially open new fronts. That is why both sides treat the city as a major objective, not a secondary skirmish. Russia's trap strategy isn't just physical. It's psychological. Every infiltration attempt, every drone overhead, every destroyed bridge chips away at Ukrainian resolve. Psychological warfare is powerful, especially in urban environments where defenders feel constantly surrounded. The uncertainty of where the next attack will come from weighs heavily on troops and commanders alike. When soldiers feel hunted even behind their own lines, fatigue sets in faster. At the same time, this strategy is not without risks for Russia. Urban warfare is notoriously difficult, even for well-equipped armies. Infiltration teams often face deadly odds. Street fighting exposes attackers to ambushes, hidden snipers, and close quarters traps. If Ukraine can stabilize supply lines or reinforce certain districts, Russia could find itself losing troops at an unsustainable rate. War is unpredictable, and even carefully laid traps can turn on their makers. Ukraine faces its own strategic dilemmas. Holding Pokrovsk means committing resources that might be needed elsewhere. But losing Pokrovsk could trigger a chain reaction along the front, creating pressure points in multiple regions. Ukrainian leadership has to calculate not only military value, but political and symbolic significance. Abandoning such a key city would be a blow that reaches far beyond the battlefield. The battle has also highlighted how modern warfare is evolving. Drones, small unit tactics, and non-traditional mobility like motorbikes are becoming central components of strategy. The days of massive tank columns dominating the battlefield are fading. In their place are swarms of small, quick, unpredictable threats. Pokrovsk has become a testing ground for these methods, and the outcomes here will influence future military doctrine on both sides. As the battle continues, the situation remains fluid. Contours of control shift, supply routes open and close. Weather changes the tempo. One day might favor Ukraine's drones and reconnaissance. The next might give Russia's infiltration teams the cover they need. Neither side has achieved decisive victory, and both understand that the battle's outcome could alter the trajectory of the entire war. Reports from soldiers on the ground describe the environment as intense and exhausting. Ukrainian troops speak of constant pressure, constant drone noise, and the difficulty of predicting Russian moves. Russian soldiers describe heavy losses among their small units and the dangers of entering dense urban neighborhoods defended by experienced Ukrainian fighters. It is a brutal contest of endurance, skill, and strategy. Another critical aspect is artillery. Pokrovsk is under frequent bombardment, with both sides using artillery to weaken enemy positions. However, Russia's ability to maintain sustained shelling has given it an advantage in certain areas. Ukraine responds with precision strikes where possible, targeting Russian positions and supply lines. But artillery duels are expensive in ammunition, and both sides face challenges in maintaining stockpiles. If Pokrovsk eventually falls, it will not be because of a single assault, but because of weeks or months of cumulative pressure. Russia's trap strategy relies on creating a situation where defenders can no longer maintain their positions effectively. Cut supplies, constant harassment, infiltration, psychological pressure, and infrastructure destruction together form a multi-layered approach designed to collapse resistance slowly, not break it in one blow. If Ukraine manages to hold the city, it will be because of careful management of resources, effective use of special forces, and resilience under pressure. Holding Pokrovsk would demonstrate Ukraine's ability to counter complex strategies and maintain key positions despite overwhelming odds. It would also preserve an important logistical hub that might play a future role in counteroffensives. The future of the battle is uncertain, and analysts continue to watch Pokrovsk closely. Every shift in control, every destroyed bridge, every successful infiltration or counterattack tells part of the story. It is one of the most strategically important battles of the conflict, and its outcome could influence decisions at the highest levels of military leadership on both sides. The significance of this battle goes beyond military strategy. It affects civilians, industries, political narratives, international support, and the morale of both armies. A battle like this becomes a symbol, whether of resilience or of advancing power. That is why both Russia and Ukraine are investing so heavily into the fight. As the situation evolves, it's clear that Pokrovsk represents more than a place on the map. It has become a focal point where new tactics meet old principles, where drones meet trenches, where infiltration meets resistance, and where strategic goals meet human cost. The trap Russia is attempting is complex, and Ukraine's efforts to escape it are equally determined. Every day brings new developments, new assaults, new counterattacks, new assessments of where the front line stands. And throughout it all, Pokrovsk remains a symbol of how modern warfare blends technology, manpower, strategy, and psychology into a single brutal picture. Thank you for staying with this full breakdown of the situation and the strategy behind the battle for Pokrovsk. Your engagement means a lot, and I hope this gave you a clear and detailed understanding of what's happening on the ground. If you want more deep dive explanations like this, feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, or share your thoughts about how you think the battle might evolve next.